So this week, the only assignment you have is the second mini project. So if you haven't accessed that yet, go ahead and go onto Canvas, pull up the assignment, get the data set. There's also a data dictionary there. So the goal of this mini project is to have you do an exploratory data analysis. So to this point in the course, we have looked at a ton of different tools that you can use to do an exploratory data analysis. So for the exploratory data analysis, I'm not requiring that you use specific tools. What I'm more interested in is the output. So you're going to be making choices as to what code to use to get the output. And in the assignment description, you'll notice there's a couple different requirements for your exploratory data analysis. And if you haven't already, I would make sure to go ahead and read that chapter in the book on exploratory data analysis, just to give you kind of an overview of what is included there, what it is you're looking for. But typically for any data analysis project, this exploratory piece is really always where you want to start. And it's one of the more time-consuming pieces, but it's also one of the most important, because it is at this stage that you're going to catch things like mistakes in your data. Is there something that was entered wrong? Is there a piece of data that doesn't make sense? So that way you can go back to where the data was collected. Or if it's an obvious error, so not an outlier that's reasonable, but an obvious error, you could remove that observations and say, hey, there's an obvious error here. So for example, if you had weight in your data set and somebody was recorded as weighing 1,000,000 pounds, that's an obvious, mistake. That's not a potential outlier that could have occurred. That's an obvious mistake. So you would need to address that in some way. You can also at this stage explore missingness. You always want to explore that to see, hey, is there maybe one of your variables is missing for all of one of your groups? In which case you're not going to be able to, compare that variable for different groups. So those are the kinds of things here at the exploratory stage you're really going to be looking for. You look for things like univariate summaries, so summaries of the variables independently. You also at this stage look for associations between variables. And so this is, purely visual. We're not doing any statistical test or anything like that. This really is just building plots and summaries to get a good feel of what is occurring in your data set before you ever go forward and do more with it. So this is really a crucial piece. And it's one of those pieces that I feel like often gets overlooked, because when we think of publications don't talk about the exploratory data analysis usually. Your publications that you see include the end result, but really this piece always has to be done first. So that's what we're going to work on here. You've learned a lot of tools in this course so far to do an exploratory data analysis. So now you're going to apply those tools to this data set. Now, for everyone in the course, you do have to look at the first 10 variables listed in the data dictionary. Graduate students are required to also explore the 3 pH variables. So graduate students have a couple additional variables that you need to look at as well. So I will pause here. Does anyone have any questions about the assignment to start with? All right, well, if there are no questions, just like last time, I'm going to sit back, let you all work, and then as you have different questions that arise, I will be here to help.
I actually did have a quick question.
Yeah.
So for the univariate summaries, I assume that includes like all 10 variables, right? Like we have to do that. Okay. For the multivariate, is there like a number that we should be going for there, or?
Yeah, so you have to do the comparisons of the groups of interest. So for example, your 2 groups of interest are critically ill versus healthy. So for each of those groups, you're going to want to look at your variables to see if there's any differences between those 2 groups. And then also subgroups within those groups. So gender and race, for example. Now, I don't have a particular number in mind, but I wouldn't do just 1 or 2, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't
Thank you.
necessarily have to do all of them, but I would like a reasonable, somewhere there between all of them and just 1 of them, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I should also say, if you get finished with this assignment and you find it's only 2 pages long, that is probably too short. By the time you include plots and your tables with your, univariate summaries, your output and your plots are going to take up a lot of space. So in terms of like the write-up that you write, you won't be writing a ton. You'll write a little bit for each of the sections. But I do anticipate the write-up and the code to take up a good chunk of space. So these assignments will be a little bit longer just because of that. So again, if you get finished and you find your assignment's only 2 pages long, that is probably too short. Now, I will say there are creative ways with some of the code to combine plots and, maybe have a single table with all the univariates, which will make it shorter, but 2 pages is probably too short. Ron, if you haven't seen it, I sent you a message in the chat.
I don't like how quiet it is, so I'm going to say good morning.
Good morning. It is very quiet this morning. I think it's where we're working on the second mini project. There's not probably going to be as many questions to start out with. But yes, it is very, very quiet this morning.
First question, why would you assign an assignment?
I know, right? I mean, into the semester.
So rude.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? I am the worst. What can I say? Hey, at least it's just one assignment though, right?
True. I have a question about last week because I'm just noticing something.
I'm ready for it.
Did I not submit my assignments for 9.1 and 9.2?
Let's look and see. Give me a second. If you didn't, it's fine. Just submit them when you get a chance.
I'll do it right now, but because I don't think I did.
You didn't. It's fine. Just go ahead and submit them and I'll take off the late penalty.
I'm sorry. I've been so scatterbrained
No,
recently.
we are definitely to that point in the semester where I am right there with you. We're getting close though. Like as I've been like writing notes and things, I'll realize I'm like, oh, I'm writing notes for week 12 and week 13. We're almost at the end.
All right, I just submitted both.
Where's the link for that book and that chapter you're talking about?
I'll put it in the chat. I'm going to send you the link, and this link will go directly to the chapter. There you go. It's in the chat now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor Ellis, could you help me troubleshoot just installing or loading summary tools? I installed .packages just fine, but when I call library summary tools, it just get a real messy error message.
I actually might have some code that can help. Ron and I had to use it for another class, and if you have a Mac, it has like a whole like problem. So Dr. Ellis, I'll let you go first, and then I can copy and paste some other code if you can't figure that out real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's on a Mac, are you on a Mac, Samuel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's actually a link that you need.
Ooh.
Is it not in this link? It is. Sarah, if you have it handy, I know for summary tools before on the Mac, I forget what it's called. Yeah, it has trouble loading it. So Sarah, if you've got that quick, that would be great. Yeah, because I had trouble on my Mac and I had to go to a website. It was in the error code though, the link to the website. And once I installed that, it was fine.
So that is the one that I use, but the one thing is you have to reboot everything after you're done installing that. So, or reboot it and then install. So yeah.
That's exactly what I had to do on my Mac as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if that doesn't work, let us know, but that should fix it.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah.
No problem. It was a huge headache. So I'm glad I had it like really handy.
Yeah, I would say 99% of the time, whether you're on a Windows or a Mac, R works the same. But every once in a while with some of the packages, you'll find something like this.
More importantly, thank you to Ron for actually troubleshooting that and having a great computer software background to help fix that.
My knight in shining armor.
Yeah, I'm surprised. It was somebody, Cameron, was it you that we downloaded that for the other day? There was somebody I helped with that the other day, and it's weird.
Yeah, we definitely spent quite a bit of time troubleshooting that.
Because so a lot of times in the error code, it will actually give you the link for whatever the extra thing you need is. On your Samuel, I'm kind of surprised it didn't give that in the error code. Yeah. Maybe R is getting tired at the end of the semester is why. Well, we can blame it on that. Has everybody been able to at least get the data on your computer to open the data? Is anybody stuck on that?
So just like a quick question, I just pretty much just joined. You said like, well, the first 10 variables that like we're gonna be looking at, and then like grad students, we just put pH. So we're gonna do like 10 plus pH for like missing data, univariate, and then like on the multivariate, we can, do you want like to do multivariate for like 10 variables, for example, like group, pH, group, gender, pH through like three-way tables, or just like
Yeah, so you don't have to do all, so because there are 3 pH variables. So for graduate students, there'll be a total of 13 variables. You don't have to look at all of them, but I would also look at more than one comparison, if that makes sense. You're looking for some nice middle ground. Though primarily what you want to do is the variable that you're going to compare to is, sorry, I was making sure I say this right, critically ill versus healthy. So what you're doing is you're going to compare critically ill versus healthy for some of those 13 variables. And so which of the 13 variables is up to you. You don't have to do all 13 of them, but think wisely about how you want to look at it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then there's also then subgroups as well. So, you could look at critically ill versus healthy, and then within those also look at gender and race. So this is where dplyr is really going to help you all out, is what's really going to help you out. All of those functions that are within dplyr make doing those kind of comparisons pretty quick and easy.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't want to give too much away, but make sure that in your in-between steps, you're thinking about what your output is actually telling you. So like as you go through and do that univariate analysis and those missing data, those first 2 steps, don't just write all the code and then not look at what that's actually telling you before you go into the multivariate. So because you'll notice, what is it? The 3rd bullet point is a discussion of data cleaning, if any. So again, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a reason that that is there.
I had another quick question. So for the purposes of this project, since we're only using the 10 variables as well as the pH variables, are we able to just remove the other ones just to make some of those functions a little bit easier?
Yes, you start
Okay.
looking at it as a first step. If you just want to take out those other variables, that is perfectly fine.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a way I can format like, DF summary output so that it doesn't look like a disaster in an R notebook when I knit it?
Yeah, so this one, you're knitting to Word, right? Or are you knitting to PDF?
Word right now.
Yeah, so I think that function has some trouble with knitting to Word. We had some issues with the lab last time. If you're knitting to PDF, I think it works well, but I think it doesn't look great if you knit to a Word document.
Okay,
So,
it's fine if it's a PDF because I can just do it on my other computer.
yeah, I think the PDF should work fine. If you look at, let me send you the tutorial I was looking at, because that's part of summary tools, right?
Yes.
There was a tutorial, let me find it. All right, I'm gonna put this in the chat. So section 2.4.1 shows how it gives you some stuff that you can add to make it format really nice for an R Markdown document. And that should work well with the PDFs, but it was having some trouble with Word. So what you could do is, so what I had, I don't think she's here today, but so what I had Kate do last time, because Kate was having a lot of trouble getting that to knit to Word, was I just had her go ahead and create it, and it will save it as a file. And then on the, once you're completely done, just add it back into your Word document. And that's completely fine if you want to do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So for the exploration of missingness in the data set and discussing any concerns, do you want us to make like graphs and tables about that? So I would show like, oh, there are this many missing values per column and stuff like, okay.
Yeah, and don't forget about that Nanier package. So that
The what?
the Nanier package, the NANIAR package,
Okay.
that one's going to really help you with step one. That was in, was it last week? I think it was last week, the first section of last week. Is that right? My memory is, give me a second, I'll tell you what module it was in. Yeah, have a look at module 9.1. So that package will be really useful for that first bullet point. just out of curiosity for those of you that are in here, so I've been thinking forward to your final exams. And what I'm thinking is I'll probably do 2 versions of a final exam. And one of the versions, what I was thinking of doing is for those of you that are graduate students or undergraduates that are working with data, I was thinking about doing something where you actually use your data and do something with it, if that makes sense. So that way you can apply what you've learned in the class to what you're doing in your individual research. But before I do that, I was curious how many of you actually have data sets that you're currently working on. Does that make sense? So if you don't mind, if if you put up like a little reaction hand or whatever. Okay, so how many of you have actual data sets that you're working with right now? Okay, so there are several of you. So I
I'm
might
still
do that.
collecting all of my data. So like I have a very short amount of it input, but like less than like a quarter of it's done.
Well, that would still be fine because so what you could do then, and I'll think about how I write it, but even if you just used your first quarter of the data, if you get that read in, you do some stuff with it, then when you get all of your data, you know, that code should still transfer over to all the data, if that makes sense. So, okay, so I'll think on that some more, but I was thinking that might be good. So that way, you know, you can apply the things that you're learning in this class to your own individual research.
Hey, Dr. Ellis, I have a question, especially when it comes to like your own research and a final project.
Mhm.
So in the last mini project, we talked about like utilizing dates. Are we going to like flush that out a little bit more?
I actually just wrote a note set this week on dates, and that
Okay.
you're going to cover. Sorry, I'm trying to remember in my head like how far ahead I am in notes. I think it's not next week, but the week after, we're going to go over structure of dates. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth with dates, but we are going to look at what's called the Lubridate package. Lubridate's not part of Tidyverse, but it's a package that is specifically made to work with dates. And so we'll talk about how you can do things like, so let's say in your data set, you have a column for year, you have a column for month, and you have a column for day, for example. We'll talk about how to combine those into a single date. We'll talk about how to convert strings over to dates into different formats, how to do that. We'll talk about how to find the difference in time points. So if you want to know, like how much time has passed between 2 different time points, we'll talk about how to do that.
Okay.
Trying to think of what else. The one thing I'm not going to cover is time zones. Time zones are a little more complicated, but your textbook does talk about time zones if you need to do anything with time zone conversion.
No, I don't. For my capstone, there's an aspect of like temporal analysis, like tracking something over the course of dates. And so I didn't know if we were, and I think I'm going to primarily use R. I thought about using Stata, but I think just because I have the code readily available from all the stuff we've been doing in class. But so I was just curious if we would ever get to that, because the less I have to worry about that, the better.
Won't do actual, so in this course, since there's not a prereq of a stats course, we won't do any of the actual analyses, if that makes sense, but we'll see how to format it and how to do
Okay.
exploration of it.
Okay.
Which, and Sarah, if you tell me, like if you email me beforehand, what it is that you need to do with your dates. Sorry. Sorry, my dog's been throwing up this morning and I thought I heard him throwing up again. So that's why I was
little baby.
We can look at it together is what I was trying to get out there. So if it's
Okay.
I can fit into the course, I can add it in. And if not, we can look at it separately.
Okay, that'd be perfect. I really appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Poor Gus.
Oh, he's got something wrong with his tummy.
Oh,
He's a mess.
baby. They always are.
I know, but you just love them. Just that's all you can do is love them. The good news is now that I'm listening to him more, I think it was a squeaker toy and not him throwing up.
Mine has kind of been doing that. We think it might be allergy related. So like one Benadryl before going to bed, and then he is usually pretty fine. But I don't know. They're very peculiar creatures. So
They truly are. They truly are. Yeah, we've been to the vet, I think 3 times now and can't figure out what's wrong with his stomach. So
oh,
we'll see. We'll see.
poor baby.
I didn't even think of allergies though. That might be another thing to try. So
Yeah, so Otto would get up and start like dry heaving. So we started feeding him like a handful of food before going to bed, and then a Benadryl just to kind of help with allergies and if he needs something on his stomach the whole time. So that's been.
my Dobos would do that. So they just feeding them periodically throughout the day because otherwise they'll throw up bile. I think it's a Dobo thing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. And I'm like, one time I have a early morning class, and he threw up right at my feet during the middle of a class, and yeah, so I was like, we gotta fix this. So yeah.
Yeah, both of mine have done that. So they get.
I had to keep a straight face. That was incredibly difficult. So the fun with it.
You're like, my dog threw up bile on me. It's okay, guys.
It was during Dr. Slade's class too. So there's only like 5 of us. So I was like trying to keep it together.
I think the worst thing he ever did was it was fireworks, and he gets really upset with fireworks. And so he was upset, and so he got on the couch and just threw up on my lap. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore, and just threw up on me. I was like, thanks, man.
Oh my god.
Thanks.
Oh, like yep, peculiar little creatures.
They truly are.
Hey, so I actually have a weird little error that showed up. It's not actually an error, it's just a warning message. Never gotten this before. I don't know if I've done something different or wrong or what, but here. Share screen. Because I don't know what I've done. So I've got this weird INF.
Yeah, so what is going on there?
So I went back to, where did I go back to? I went back to lab 8 because I wanted to try to do the groups, critically ill versus healthy, and I was trying to remember how to do that.
So I think what's happening there, you got your name got removed. So sorry. So you get critical, healthy summarize. Oh, okay. So one thing that's not, this isn't why you're getting that error, but do be careful. So look in your code. Do you see how you've got gender equals min and gender equals max?
Yeah.
So it's going to rewrite it. So first you say that gender is equal to the minimum of this, and then you say gender is equal to the maximum of it.
Oh, so I don't actually even need, I was trying to figure out what I needed there. So I don't actually need the min or max either. I just need gender, right?
Yes. So
and I also just need race. So in that aspect, I don't need the min or the max, but I need gender.
Yeah. So what I would do instead, so what this is doing is.
Can I just, no.
Well, they're both categorical anyways. So you're right. You don't want the min and max of them. Then what I would do in your group by statement, I would group by healthy and group by gender. Does that make sense? And then look at what other variable you want to look at for each of those. So you probably want to do count still, because count is going to give you the count for each of those subgroups. So gender within critically ill and gender within healthy.
So like, do I only need one of these statements and just like, can I just do this? Can I do that?
No, because
No.
what that's going to do, the summarize, is you're applying some function to the data set. So you have to decide what function and what variable you want to apply that to. So in the group by, you're going to group by healthy and gender, which are both categorical. And then for each of those groups, you might want to look at a continuous variable. So for example, maybe you want to look at the mean weight for each of those.
Okay, okay, so I can do something else. Okay, okay. So what if okay.
Does that make sense? So I wouldn't have gender in the summarize at all. I would have a third variable that you want to look at and compare between the different subgroups of healthy and gender.
Okay. Okay. I will work on that. Thank you.
I had kind of like a broad question about the assignment. So like, how close is the DF summary function to like covering all the bases for the univariate analysis? Because it, I mean, gives a lot of what other functions can do. So
yeah, so it pretty much covers all of it. And that's part of what I wanted you, I was hoping that you all would figure out is for each of these bullet points, there's an easy way and there's a long way to get that. So yeah, so if you use some of those packages that we've looked at, it makes very short work of doing some of these. Or I mean, you could get the same results if you ran, you know, the functions individually on each of those 13 variables. And so it really illustrates why, you know, some of these packages are so useful, because it makes the work go by very quickly.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Dr. Ellis, can you maybe help me interpret what the scatter plot is kind of meaning?
You want to bring it up and we can look at it?
Yeah. So the line of code is over here.
Oops, sorry, there we go. Now I'm in full screen. Okay, so we're looking at C time versus SB time per group. Yes. Okay. So how to explain what's going on here without giving this away. So you're trying to visualize missing this, right?
Yeah.
So for the group on the left, do you have any data points that aren't missing?
I mean, I think so.
I don't see it now, Grant.
Based on this, there's none of the blue dots. So that's why I was confused on that.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I'm saying. So for that group on the left, this variable is completely missing, isn't it? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is that something you think you should talk? Is that a concern?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. There's your answer.
Okay.
So we can't interpret it. There's no data.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons it's so important to really go through that missingness and to look for things, because now, this is a concern that you need to address. Well, you don't have to address it, but you have to like say why it's a concern.
Yeah. Okay. And then one more thing. I was using the create table one function, and then, trying to separate out my categorical variables.
Yes.
I think I've run everything correctly. I'm gonna run it all again.
Oh, it's because, so you're right that how you got them in the categorical variables, but you also list them in my variables. So you list them in both places. Think of
Oh,
my variables as being all of them, and then categorical is the ones that it's going to separate out to be categorical. Try that, should work now.
okay. Yeah, that was the problem.
No, the first time I used table one, I made the same mistake.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I will be right back.
Okay, so you said that for number 2, you were looking or hoping that we would use the Desker function.
Oh,
Like,
So I
huh?
think it's up to you. So
Well,
there's-
I used it anyways before you even
gotcha.
that was even brought up. Is there anything else specific that you're looking for in that section though, or just like to look at basic stats of the?
So look at basic stats, and then, so you don't just want to get the output though. So you want to look at the output and try not to give too much away here. See if there's anything that looks unusual, or do you have any concerns now that you've taken a look at those summaries of those 13 variables?
Okay.
Does that make
And then
sense? So you want
number,
to look at them in context of what those variables are.
say that again.
So you want to look at them in context to what those variables are.
So like skewness.
Skewness, anything that looks unusual. So like
So non-normal versus normal distributions.
even more basic than that. So like so if I ask someone how many hours they work in a week, and I found out on average they told me the number of hours they work in a week is 6,000, that would be a problem. You see what I'm saying there?
They're probably in grad school.
Yeah, they're probably in grad school and they have invented a time machine and duplicated themselves, and that's how they're working. But that kind of stuff. So think of those summaries in context of what the variables actually are to see if there's anything unusual. And then that's going to lead into, notice the third bullet point there is a discussion of data cleaning, if any. So was there anything that was obviously wrong that you either had to address or remove or do something with based on those univariate summaries that you did in the bullet point above?
Okay. And then, so for the third one with data cleaning, if you performed any, so we don't have to write any script for that, right? Because if we did omit anything, it wouldn't be in that section.
Yeah, exactly. So that
Okay.
will be, it is just a discussion. Hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, just so you all know, and I'll make an announcement later today. My office hours next week are, instead of being from 9 to 11, are going to be from 10 to 12. But like I said, I'll make an announcement and I'll change the Zoom link on Canvas.
I'm trying to do something, but I know I'm doing like the wrong way.
I feel that way often when I try to do things.
Um,
You got
I just want, like, the first thing that I want to do is create like a data set with just like the 13 variables that we need.
Yeah.
So I went there. I can even share my screen real quickly. Me just like playing around, but I got the names, but this just like creates an object.
Yes.
I want this to be like a new data set. I need like, it's something simple, but I've been like playing with all the labs. I cannot find how to do it.
Yeah. So it's part of the dplyr function. You want to use the select.
There we go. Which module is that?
It is, great question. Hold on a second.
Maybe 8.
I'm thinking 7, but I could be wrong. Oh, well, that's got the wrong objectives on it, so that isn't useful.
No, it's not select here.
I'm thinking 7.2. It's 8 or 7. Yeah, look at 7.2.
Here. Oh, here. There we go.
There you go. And so now what you can do is, pardon me, that variables that you call the D output, you can just copy and paste that after the name of your data set and remove the quotations.
Yeah, because this is going to be smart. So, and this is going to be 13 that I want. Okay, I'll try to run this.
Then don't forget to change the name. So you'll have to remove
yeah.
the quotations and change the name of the data set. Yep. So you just do like smart pill sub, so it's a subset of smart pill.
Yeah. And 2.
Perfect.
Okay, and then I'll just fix all of this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nope, it got mad.
You want to share your screen and we'll take a look?
Yes, I think it's the naming on a variable. This variable here has spaces, and I think that's why it's mad.
Oh, did it read it in with spaces? Yeah, so what you'll have to do is put backticks around the names with spaces. I thought I had removed all the spaces from the names though.
Change it here in 2 seconds. I think it's just one.
Did I miss one?
Yeah, this one, S mean PH.
Yeah, you can just add. So does everybody see that? So in the Smart Pill CSV for the graduate students, we have to look at the pH variables. It looks like I forgot to put in the underscores. So you can just change it in the CSV file and resave it. It's probably the easiest way. The other thing you can do is if you read it in with the spaces, I think you can just put backticks around the name and it will also read it. Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I had caught all of them when I read it in.
It's fine. Give it a try. Yep, it was mad at it.
Wait, was it? It did it, right?
Yeah, is there like a way to like, is it always easier to do like what we did, just go back like in the main data set and change it? I know we can use like the rename functions and everything.
Yeah, you could do it one.
Fast gets really mad at spaces too.
Yeah, you could do it that way, or you can use backticks. So if you have a non-standard name, so the next thing we're going to look at are what are called tibbles. I think.
Yeah, I think
data frames will let you do it as well. So the backtick is in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. If you have a non-standard name, yeah, it'll work with the spaces. If you have a non-standard name, like something has spaces or starts with a number, R will still let you call it, but you have to put backticks around the name is what you have to do.
Okay. So for like the visualization of missing, do you want like this, or do you want like we go like further, try to do like those graphs that we did in the lab?
Yeah, so it's your call.
Or should we just go like at the summary, the last, whatever was the last thing that we did? The summary tools that gives it.
So for the first bullet point for the missing data, I would not use summary tools. I would use Nanyar, however you say it, which is what you're using here with the Vismas.
Yeah.
So as far as how far to go with the Vismas, that's going to depend on what you find in the plots. So looking at your plot here, this is like your cursory look at missingness. You do have, missing data, obviously.
Yep.
So at this point, I would use some of those other functions in that package to dive in a little bit deeper to see, hey, is there something else I need to, look at since there is missingness in here? Does that kind of make sense?
Yep.
Now, if there was no missingness, then yeah, you would just stop here.
Sounds good. I would just, probably go like in the ones that are missing the most and see what's going on with those.
Exactly. See if there's any maybe patterns that you need to address or look at. So yeah.
Let's keep going. Thanks.
You're welcome. And I will go ahead, I'll fix that that variable that didn't have the underscores in its name and upload a new one to Canvas.
I had another quick question. My output for the DF summary, I know you all talked about it a little bit earlier, but it outputs fine in the viewer. It looks really good, but anytime like I try to like run it as the notebook, it just does not work.
Yeah, you're knitting to Word, aren't you?
I tried it to Word, then I also tried to preview it as an HTML, and neither of them.
Yeah. So Kate had this problem the other day. For some people it works and for some people it's not, and I don't have a good way to troubleshoot it. So what I would do is, since it appears in the viewer, if you can, usually, and if you want to share your screen, I can probably show you how to do this. You
Yeah.
can just save that as a file, and then once you get done with your document, I'm fine if you just place that into the Word document at the end, if that makes sense.
Okay. So
Yeah, so here it's in your viewer. So if
yeah,
you
I ran it from the script.
let's see. Can you right click in your viewer?
Just like anywhere.
Yeah. So if you click on select all and then right click again and copy, I think you can just paste that into your Word document.
Okay. I can.
But like I said, you'll have to do it at the very end, because each time you reknit, it's going to replace the file. But if you
Right.
want to, what you could do is just right now go ahead and open up another Word file, paste it into there, make sure it looks good, and then just save that. And then, like I said, when you get your document, your other document the way that you want it, just repaste that into Word.
Okay, that didn't.
Do one of the other paste options.
Okay. See, that's like that kind of the output that I'm getting.
Yeah. Let's hit Control. Oh, are you on a Mac?
No, I'm on Windows.
Control Z for me, and right click again. Do you not have a paste? What's the middle option look like? Merge formatting, yeah.
Doesn't do anything.
I was trying to think. I think there's a way. In your R file or in your R Studio, in that window where you've got the data frame summary, do you see the icon that's next to the broom? What does that icon do?
Which one?
To the right of the broom.
Show new window.
There we go. Show a new window, and then right click for me. Do save as, and then save type as. Oh, it won't let you do it that way. So I was hoping we could save it as an image, and that way it would be preserved. Let me play around with it for a second. Let me pull one up.
Okay.
And yeah.
Do you want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Jacob, do you mind in the chat to send me the line of code you're using to make that summary?
Yeah, so I tried it with the way I'm about to send to you, and then I also just tried it with the just passing like the DF summary, the data set with nothing else. But this is the way that I got it to look okay in the viewer. So
All right. Copy that over. I'm just trying to figure out the quickest way for me to replicate something in the viewer.
Right.
So I can, of course on mine, it didn't show in the viewer. Oh, that's what I was missing. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you what I did on my computer. Let me share screen here. And see if this process works for you. All right. All right, so here is my RStudio. So I'm going to do this for a different data set that I already had loaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call plain df summary, the name of the data set, and then I'm going to place the view function around it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to run this. It's going to pop up here. I'm going to open up in the new window. And then all I'm going to do is highlight it all, Control C. And then I'm going to open up a Word doc. And then just Control V paste.
Yeah, that worked.
Okay, perfect then.
That's interesting. I don't know why it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't either. And like I said, when I worked with Kate last time, it was just acting really finicky on hers. And that's what we ended up doing with something similar. So
Okay.
not the most elegant workaround, but if it works, it works.
Can you do that again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So it was just the script with the DF summary around it?
Yep. And so I didn't put any additional options or anything. So for you all, it'll be the pill data set, obviously not this data set. And then I just ran it, and then it should appear here in the viewer. And then once it appears in the viewer, you can click on this little box here to open it up in a new window. And then I just copy and paste it into Word.
So I'm not getting the graph.
Let me stop sharing. Let me see yours.
I'm on the desktop.
Oh, that's right. I always forget. You're not getting the graph. What columns are you getting?
Huh?
What columns are you getting in your table? Are you getting anything but the graphs?
Say that again, sorry.
Are you getting, oh, let me actually, hold on a second, let me. So are you getting like these columns and just not this one, or?
Yeah.
Huh.
In and out, in and out, in and out, in
You
and
don't
out.
have anything extra here?
1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I'm in class right now.
And the only thing you have in here is the name of the data set?
Yeah.
Do you have a capital V or a lowercase v here?
Lowercase.
So that's not it.
You can try it with that code that I sent in the chat, because everywhere like that I looked trying to like format the graph, it said to use that. So maybe just like the default isn't working very well.
Yeah, try that. Do you see it where I got posted that to everybody? It's probably the last one in the chat. And like I said, once you get it copied, I would just put it in a separate Word document and just keep it until you're pretty much done with your write-up, and then just paste it in. Oh, Brooke, let me do something. How about I just email this to you? That way you don't have to. Brooke, I just sent you an email with that line of code, if that helps.
I'm almost done inputting it. Thank you, though.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ellis, can you give me a hint as far as, I don't exactly remember how to remove certain observations or certain values for variables in one observation. So like, let's just say, for instance, there's a variable I know is messed up and I just want to change that to NA.
So
I don't remember how to do that.
Yeah, so the easiest way to do it, I'm going to put this in the chat. So remember that we can call a data set and we can put square brackets behind it. And then what we can do is we can use a comma in between to separate out rows and columns, right? So what you can do is, actually, hold on a second. I should probably test this before I just throw it in the chat.
That still didn't bring up the graphs for me.
Okay, so Joshua just posted in the chat to try the ST view. And so that's what he had to use to get the full one. I don't know why this package just seems like it's kind of finicky. All right, so Cameron, I'm gonna put your chat. So this is just kind of obviously this isn't written specifically for your data, but I'm just gonna write it generically and then I'll talk through it. All right, so what this is doing is I'm just gonna make a new data set. I'm gonna set it equal to my old data set. And you'll notice inside of the square brackets, I've got a comma. So anything before the comma represents the rows. Anything after the comma represents the columns. So what this piece of code is doing is the negative means to remove. So it's going to remove the first row in this case. So it's not going to set it to missing. We could do that as well. But this is just going to subset it to remove it. So if you've got a complete observation that you want to remove out, this is how you can do that. But you do want to make sure that you define that to be a new data set because you don't want to overwrite your original, if that makes sense.
is there a way to not delete an entire row, but to just change one variable in a row to missing?
Yes. So to change that to missing, you do something very similar. So what you would do then, let me copy this. So let's say that for the 10th person and the third variable in a data set, you can call it individually doing something very similar and then set it to NA doing this.
Are there any specific amounts of graphs that you want us to do, or certain, besides the pH, certain variables that you want us to look at?
Yeah, so
Or
it's
just whatever looks.
the first 10 variables in the data dictionary plus the pH, so 13 total. So for all 13 of those, you should do the univariate summary.
Real quick
I'm on the multivariate now.
Oh, okay. So for the multivariate, that's kind of up to you. So I do want you to compare healthy versus critically ill for them as best you can. I don't expect you to do all of the comparisons, but I expect you to do more than one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some nice spot in the middle. So you're looking to see if you find anything interesting, and you kind of want to base that on what you found in the previous steps. So if you found something going on in the previous steps, then this might be a good place to explore it multivariately as well.
Okay.
Cameron, did that piece of code make sense?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask a follow-up real quick. Instead of calling like a row or a column number, could I just call it by its name with parentheses around that?
Yeah, so that you can't use the parentheses. What you can do, hold on a second, let me make sure this works before
I can figure out the number. I was just wondering, that might be easier.
Yeah, so what you can do that based on the value using the which functions that we saw, it's been a while ago. But what you could do is you could find which observation is equal to a certain value. And then you could place that instead of like where you've got the 10 and the 3, if that makes sense. So that's how you would automate it, or not automate it, but that's how you could do it without finding, I mean, you're still finding what the index number is. So for example, if you wanted to have, so you could do something like this.
And I'm not really sure how it interacts with, a specific row number. It kind of, those change as I sort viewing my data set.
Yep, you're exactly right. So that's why you'll want to do this so what I'm going to show you, you'll want to do after you've done your sorting and after you've done your changes. So think of this as like this linear progression, if you will. So what you could do is something like this. Let me put this in the chat. So if you want to find the variable that you want to change, you could say variable change is equal to which, and so again, I've written this generically. You're going to call the variable from the data set, and I realize I've spelled variable wrong. I don't know why I always spell that word wrong. So when I'm typing, so what I'm doing here is I'm calling the variable from the data set. And let's say that I know that this variable shouldn't take the value 1 million. So I'm going to find which values in the data set are equal to 1 million. And those are going to be the values that I need to change. And then what I would do is in my data set, what I would do is instead of having 10 there, I could put value.change.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense? And so
Yeah,
that way,
that makes sense.
you're making R find the index for you using the which function.
Yeah, that kind of answers my question. That's sort of what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
Was like that specific type of search, but yeah.
And the which function will help you do that. Now you can also use dplyr to do that, because remember with dplyr, in that dplyr package, we saw the filter function. So filter, you can do a couple things. So you could use filter, and filter will just take out those observations. It'll take out the full observation. So again, if a particular variable took the value 1,000,000, you didn't want it to, you can completely remove that observation. To change it, just that single element over to NA like we're doing here, to do that, you could use the mutate, which is part of dplyr as well. So there's two different ways that you can approach it. But either one will get you the same result.
Okay, I don't know if like this is some sort of like spoiler or anything, or if I'm just like going crazy and messed up my data set. But everything's missing. Like the weird variables, they're missing for group 0 only.
Yeah, so actually Cameron already figured this out. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
So that's one of the things I wanted you all to find. So notice you cannot summarize those variables for the critically ill people. You can only summarize them for healthy. So that's going to be a limitation that you're going to have to talk about. Yeah, so no, that's 100% one of those things that I wanted you all to find through exploration of the data set, and is definitely an issue with this data set.
Okay, and I wanted to do like a share. Can I just did like a bar, like a scatter plot of like group and like one of the variables that had like more missing values.
Yep, that's perfectly fine.
Is there like a way to like, I don't know, turn this into like a bar graph, or like the geom missing point doesn't like that, or like,
yeah,
or
so
is that just fine?
One way that you could separate it out, if you want, well, you could use facets to put it into separate plots, which I think would look better. As far as for a histogram,
That is actually
histogram wouldn't really work here, because on your x-axis you have group, which takes one of two values.
Yeah.
0 or 1, right? So I guess you could make a histogram of time for each of the groups. To do that, what you would do is use a facet, but I don't think, I know geom miss point doesn't work with the, obviously won't make a histogram, but I don't.
Yeah, because there's a way I can always like mess up the scale here. Just don't remember how to do it. Because then I can just put like to vary from 0 to 1, and then I will cut like this middle here.
Yeah. So to do that, do a facet instead of having x equals group. Actually, I think you still want x equals. Do you still want x equals group?
We did that in one of the labs.
Yeah. So in the Nanyar, I do something similar, and when we went through that, have a look at
0 tables. The Nanyar.
Yeah, so it's in 9.1.
Facet.
Yeah, so you can do what you're doing here. It's just tricky because group isn't, pardon me, group isn't quantitative, so it looks a little odd. But again, keep in mind the point of doing this isn't so much to learn about C time, which you're right, you would use a histogram for each of the groups. The purpose of this plot is just to view the missingness for each of those groups, which you've done. So this plot has served its purpose. Yeah, you can also do it this way, break it down by group this way too.
But then it just gives me the number, not like a percentage.
Yeah, so you're right. So, but from our description of the data set, we know that there's only 8 observations in the critically ill group. So we can see by looking at this, of the critically ill group, we can see what's missing. You know, and so if the number of missing is 8, since there's only 8 observations in the critically ill group, then we know that it's completely missing for that one.
I kind of don't mind that one. I actually like it. Okay, I'll keep that this way.
And yeah, the idea, you know, especially at this, you know, for that first bullet point, it's just, you're not actually trying to view the values of the variables, you're trying to view the missingness, which, you know, any of the plots are doing.
Good. Okay, stop sharing. I was just like talking to my advisor. He just like replied, well, I thought I read the whole paper before like starting. That's why I was wasting time. But because we do a lot of like technology with the calves, and I use like I did some research with like pH probes and everything, and we're actually on my calves that we're gonna dissect in a couple weeks. We're gonna do like we're gonna just give them like a thermometer that will like track temperature, called like an eye button, just to see like throughout their GI tract how long and how far does it go. And I'm like, oh, these pills are actually cool.
Oh, that's funny.
Because like I love like the pH. And he's like, oh yeah, I had like a meeting with those guys. Each one of them is like $1,800
Oh, wow.
each pill. And I'm like, well, they're reusable. We can get like a good like 4 or 5 uses out of them. And the new models have like cameras.
Really
So
cool.
you could be like certain of like when it like left one compartment to go to the other.
So what you're saying is this was useful in ways that I didn't even intend.
Yes, this was like, we could use this for cows.
And that would be really neat, especially if these have never been used in cows. I mean, that could be a novel approach for you all in your field. But
We do like a lot of like validation. Like we work with mostly like precision technologies. So we work a lot of like agreement stats. And we do like a lot of validation. And actually, like yesterday, like a paper was published reviewing just like validations in general, and they used the criteria from one of our latest papers, saying like, no, this has to be the gold standard to like to validate technology, and we were actually like really happy with it.
What was I gonna say? I wonder, it probably wouldn't matter, but I wonder if where those have been used on humans, where a cow's digestive tract is so different than a human's, if the pills would be as durable, if that makes sense.
Just like depends on like, I don't know what's the pH in the human gut, but like in the cows it wouldn't get like, if they have like acidosis, like
Oh, I was thinking
whatever.
like structural integrity of the pill, where, because I mean,
Oh no, it will be fine.
those things that are a lot hardier than people, right?
It will be fine.
No, they're good.
As long as the pill did not get like regurgitated and like chewed on. That's actually something I didn't think of, but it should be fine.
Do that, right? Like they bring, is it called?
Yeah.
Is that what that's called?
Yep. Oh, I have the same cookie jar, the dinosaur.
Oh yeah, one of my friends got that for me. I don't put anything in him. I just like him.
me too. It just like sits in my kitchen there.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool little guy. I had the in my old office, I had the matching salt and pepper shakers, and I liked them because they're wearing little gold bow ties.
Dr. Ellis, I'm still plugging away, but I'm gonna have to log out for now. So I'll try to get that up here and by the end of the day.
Sounds good. If you have any questions or you need anything from me, let me know. And remember, I mean, it's not due until Monday. So, I mean, you've got lots of time.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
I'm gonna stay here muted, quiet, trying to work until questions come up,
Sounds good.
because that's pretty much the time that I will have to work on this. Monday we have like a crazy sampling day, and that's it. So what doesn't get done today, maybe I'll be able to cram in the weekend in between like lab stuff.
Well, hopefully, I mean, if you're using the packages, it should go pretty quick because some of those packages we looked at, you know, like the summary tools, Nanier, they make pretty quick work of some of the stuff. I'm actually gonna get some more coffee. I'll be right back.
So, just like, it's so wrong because, okay, I'm creating like the univariate tables. I'm just gonna do like the create table 1. Oh, I'm gonna leave my screen always shared. It's just me here, so you don't need to look at it unless I ask. So I go ahead and I do like the create table 1. That's it. The number of observations and like the values. So this is like the univariate analysis.
Yes.
But it's all wrong.
What do you mean it's wrong?
Well, because it doesn't have the group. You just like, we shouldn't be looking at it this way, I guess.
Oh, so you mean like we're not looking at it healthy versus critically ill?
Yeah, but that's the next step, right?
Next step. So you actually, even though, you're really interested in,
You just like this, we just want to know like the overall, right?
yes, and the reason for that is you're checking for mistakes in your data. So I would not just look at, so here,
Oh,
yeah, what's going on? Yeah, does that look,
Yep.
something looks off there, right?
yep.
Okay, so now you want to dive in deeper. So now what I would do next is, yes, this is giving you, is it mean and standard deviation, I think? Mean and standard deviation.
Yeah.
Obviously got something going on here. So my next step is, well, I would look at the min and the maximum for each variable. See if there's anything extreme going on that maybe you need to account for. So is there anything that doesn't clinically make sense would be my next, based on these variables and what they actually are. Is there anything that just doesn't, you're like, nah, that doesn't make any sense?
Height makes sense, weight makes sense, age makes sense.
But I guess what I'm saying, even for those, I would still, at least look at min and max. Because mean and standard deviation can be a little bit deceptive because it's going to look at, it is a measure of central tendency, but
Yes.
even though the mean can be susceptible to outliers, I would still always look at min and max.
So we always do like this, the Tibbles then?
It's not so much the Tibbles, it's more what function you use. So Summarize does mean and median, or mean and standard deviation. It's a good place to start. Actually, to start with, I would just use the summary function. Have you ever just used summary by itself? It's not part of the package. It's the very, very first one that we looked at. Yep. You want Smart Pill too? Okay, yeah.
Okay, doesn't matter. Height. Okay, there's someone really short and someone really tall, but okay, so there's a wrong age.
Exactly.
What do the variables mean? This doesn't make a lot of sense, but who knows? What is 118 hours, 4 days?
Yeah. So that one could be okay.
God, that was like that one. People are sick.
If their gut's really slow, because remember, some of these are critically ill people.
Yeah, like this one. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that one, no. So that is part of the, one of the tricky parts with, looking and doing exploratory analysis is you can have extreme observations, but there's a big difference between extreme observations and observations that just don't make any sense. For example, if the max age was 105, I'd be like, okay, that's
Maybe, yeah.
big, but maybe that could happen. 300, that's not happening.
Two, three. Oh, and race is wrong too.
Yeah. Because again, based on the values of how race is coded, that one is also wrong. So that, again, that's going back to your data dictionary and seeing how things are coded.
Right. And then I have it should be fine. Weight should be fine.
And so kind of, the other thing here is you're exactly right, starting with that table 1, but a lot of times looking at the mean and the standard deviation just isn't enough to catch this stuff.
Yeah.
It'll catch some stuff, but not everything.
You don't need to do this now. There's just a summary. Yeah, we'll give me what I need. Let's see. And then what else did I catch?
I think it was your wait time or WG time.
Yeah. These 3 variables, and now okay. So now I have just to go and I can use the select variable to clean. Is it the select?
Yep. You can use select. No, sorry. Select will do. Select does columns. Filter does by observations. So you could use filter. So what filter will, let me back up here. So what filter will do will be completely remove these observations from the data set, which I would be fine if that's how you do your data cleaning.
Yep,
The other
exactly.
option is you can use mutate to set those individual elements to missing, which would also be acceptable.
Can I use the filter to put NA?
Sorry, not filter, mutate. Filter will remove the complete observation. So filter will remove the complete row. Mutate can change the individual elements to NAs.
So
go ahead.
On the mutate, I would type NA.
Yes.
Like this.
Yeah,
and it would R would know.
Yep, without the quotations though. Capital N and capital A. Yep.
So if I go.
So that's like a special reserved thing in R that it knows what RA is or NA is.
Because in SAS we either do quotations with a blank or we do a period.
Yep. And so that depends on whether it's categorical or quantitative in SAS because it treats the two differently. R, it's just all NA.
No, it's going to be 3.
So for this one, you're not creating a new variable.
Yeah, I'm not creating a new variable.
Yeah, so this will be closer to, let me see if I can find an example of it. What did I do with that code? What do we use? I think we use
Not on 8. Let's see, what did we do in 7?
Yep. In 7.1. I think it was 7.2.
7.1 filter, no. Filter. No. Let's see. 0.2. Mutate. No.
Yeah, so this one, actually, I may have misspoke because if you do mutate, actually, can you still use? I may have misspoke there to say use mutate because if you do the cases,
Can I do something like, well, just this is how I would do in SAS. So I can say like, let's see, mutate, and I'll say like age clean.
yes, you
So
could do
like,
that. And just make a new variable called age clean that's been cleaned.
and then I'm gonna say, yeah, like age be like equals 300, and then I just put like NA.
Yes. Now be careful though, with the equal though, you do have to have the double equal where it's a lot.
Because it's the.
Now the other option is, and I put this.
And then I can do. And what would I do? But I want the other ones to copy, because in SAS it would be like new age equals age. So I can put like age equals age.
So you don't actually have to have that step when you use mutate, because mutate is just going to make a new age clean based off of age. So that copy piece isn't necessary in R that you would do in SAS. Now the other option though, that might be even easier is, did you see where in the chat, it was the last thing I put in the chat? That's another way that you could do that. So you could just directly call those elements from the data set and change them over to NA. So like for yours, you would do something like, let's see, you got that in lowercase. So you would do smart pill 2. Oh wait, you've already got a 2. So let's do a 3 is equal to. Do you want to remove the entire row or just change the elements to NA?
Just change them to NA.
So, 2.
So this is like smart pill 3.
Oh, sorry, I keep on coughing. My allergies are just, I love that everything's in bloom, but my body does not like it.
I don't know what it is. Smart pill 3.
This will be similar to what you were trying to do. That would be similar to SAS. So you could start out by setting smart pill 3 equal to smart pill 2. So that way we preserve smart pill 2. And then what you could do is then find the individual elements of smart pill 3 that you want to change. And so you'd run that line of code. So then you'll have to run the second line that I posted in the chat.
Like, I thought we were going back like to the vectors, just like, oh, like this object position, this position. I'm like, this is gonna be way more painful.
No, for this, since you just have to change a couple things, going back to the vector position really isn't bad.
Why not like smart pill 3 here?
Oh, because I messed up. Hold on, I messed up
Okay.
that line of code too. Hold on a second. We want to do, I'm sorry. This is what happens when I type out code without trying it first. try this line of code instead. I altered it a little.
How do I delete just like one? Because I created this like with the wrong name. Never know.
Oh,
Can I
like
delete just this one from like the global environment?
you don't have to, because when you rerun it, it will replace it.
It's like one had like the capital P, the other one didn't. And now it's gonna
No,
get.
I see what you're saying. If you can do, I think the function is detach. It's either detach or RM. Try
Okay.
detach and then the name of the data set you want to get rid of.
Too late.
And then that also works.
But it didn't. It got mad at your stuff.
Did I get mad? Is H capitalized in the data set?
Maybe.
Yeah. Try capitalizing age. Oh, there's sorry, there's one more age you have to do. There's an age at the beginning.
Oh.
So now let's check Smart Pill 3 and make sure that changed correctly.
Yep.
There we go.
So then, when reporting, do you want me like to report the clean stuff? Just like report the like this is messed up.
Yep.
Clean and re-report.
You don't have to do the re-report. So the next stage after, so the whole purpose of doing the univariate is to help you figure out what to clean. So then you clean, and then you don't have to rerun the univariate, because again, the whole purpose of that was for cleaning. And then now you'll run your bivariate summaries or multivariate, which is just like you said earlier, that's really what you're interested in. It's just we had to figure out what to clean before we could reasonably look at it multivariately. So you don't have to rerun that previous step. Now in practice, of course, if you were really interested in the univariate and you needed those summaries for your paper or whatever, you're right, exactly, we would rerun those. So notice now you can do the exact same thing that you just did, but just do, wait time and 816,000 and do race and 8.
Yeah, exactly. Is this like race?
And then once you get done, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to make sure everything worked properly to run that summary function on Smart Pill 3.
Yeah. After like.
Yeah, after you do the race and then the weight. I think that was weight, right?
It's something time. Let's see.
Wait time.
Yeah. Whole gut time.
Whole gut time.
This is way too much. Goes 8, 1, 6, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so now that's looking a lot better. And notice now you've got some extra NAs that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you wanted.
There's still like a 3,000 here. Yeah, no, it's still, the WG time is still wrong.
Oh, that's right.
No, what max of 38? What is it? Is it minutes? No, it's hours. Makes no sense.
Then, hold on a second. I think that one was an actual data point. But let me double check because some of these I altered.
It's like WG times, like whole gut time in hours. 3,000, like 3,900 hours is 160 days.
Just a second. I think that one was an actual data point. Was it 3,000? Yeah, no, that was an actual data point. That's not one that I messed with. I know that sounds crazy, but there really was one. I think it's one of the critically ill patients.
160 days without pooping. No.
That's, hold on a second. Let me double check here, but I'm almost positive.
100% getting rid of it.
And that's fine. I mean, because I mean that's part of the process. But so, like I said, there were things like the race and the age and that really big whole gut time. I put those in. Those were things that I mucked around with. But I think that other one's actually part of the data set. Let me see here.
It might be, but still an outlier. So this is what I'm going to do.
Let me double check here. Excel. Oh no, I lied. That is one that I mucked with. My bad. Yeah, so I guess there were two of them. Sorry, I did this a while back and sometimes remembering what exactly I've done. Let's see, enable editing. Let me double check that data. Sort.
Because one, I'm sure R would do it. Because when we do like a univariate in like a proc univariate in SAS, it will give us like the 99%, the 1%, the 95%, the 5%. And that's like normally how like we clean our data sets, either like at the 1% or the 5%, depending on like how bad it is.
Yeah, so that's
Do you get something better in R, or does it just give you like the quartiles most of the times?
no, you can do that. You can specify what percentiles you want. You using oh, what is that function? No, you're right though. That is one of the ones that I changed. Quantile is the function. So you can actually call quantile and then ask for the specific quantiles that you want. Yeah, for some reason I was thinking there was one of the times I was surprised was real. But obviously you're right, it was not that one. I think it was the 5-day one.
So I'm just keeping the same data set, because what I will do is,
oh, you can actually just, yeah, I was gonna say just recopy that one and then now just change the number.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, just there's like greater equals than 300. Yep, now it looks pretty. And now we run a summary again. No, everything checks off.
Oh, no, so that's what it was. No, I was right. So that 384, interestingly enough, that is part of the real data set. The actual maximum in the real data set was 816. So whatever 816 hours,
34 days.
34 days was the actual, that in the real data set, that was.
Yeah, but the 3,000
Yeah,
still.
you're right. That was one I had changed.
Okay,
I remember there was like an actual big value in the data set. And I was like, what was it? It's 816. So yeah, 30 days without pooping. And it was one of the critically ill. So.
And now we go to multivariables. But, well, you said for grad students to do the pH, but we actually cannot do the pH on the multivariable.
Yeah. So that will be one of the limitations that you talk about. Now, you can, though, for the pH, you can break it down by like gender, for example. And you can see if there's a difference.
Oh, yeah. But just on the healthy.
Yeah, for the healthy, you can't do it. And so that'll actually be when you get down to your last step and you talk about your concerns or limitations. That'll be something that you can talk about there because you can be like,
Okay.
hey, we can't do this. We can't compare pH for these.
And then mostly use the C table here.
Okay.
Right?
C table, and then I would also consider doing using ggplot, doing some plots, maybe like some of those grouped bar plots would be good, or histograms, depending on what the variables are. Scatter plots, some plots there. But you're right, the C tables will be very helpful.
Okay. I'll call it a day. Like here, I'll play more with it after lunch. And then for like on the notebook, we can just like, well, I have to call in the data set, call in the libraries, and then just pretty much do like bullet point by bullet point.
Yep, exactly.
Kind of.
Exactly.
Okay. Sounds good. And when is the final?
It's still a couple weeks away. We've got like a month.
No, like, okay. Because I'm like, I just don't want it to like be during my dissections, otherwise it'll be dead.
It's hold on a second, I can tell you what week it is. It is.
It's not April 13th to 16th, right? Okay, so that's good. I'll survive.
It's hold on, I've got it right here. April. Well, the finals week is in May. It's like May 10th, I think, is finals week.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you all, so dead week, which is May 3rd through the 7th, we won't have anything new that week. I'm just going to go ahead and give you the final project, if that makes sense. But it won't be actually due until finals week. I'm just going to give you close to 2 weeks to work on it.
Cool. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, let me just since we're here. And do I have it? Yeah, this is like the one I use for the cows. It's like they're like $300 a bolus. They're pretty much, I don't know, like this big. So I think like 4 or 5 inches. And you put in, and they read like pH and temperature on the rumen of the cow. It sits there forever.
Oh, that's neat. So it like, so do you get?
Yeah, this is the real size.
Do you get data at the end after it comes out of the cow? Like, it's all.
Oh, it stays. It stays. It's Wi-Fi.
So it just stays in there. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, because this is like, I think I always like, I work with a lot of like different technologies, but the bolus, I keep pushing and pushing for it because like especially like for traceability, if we start thinking of like what the consumers think and what like I can go there. We have like smart ear tags, smart collars for the cows, and I can easily go there and like tamper with those.
Yeah.
Change a color, change like something, and it's just like, and create like a fake story for a cow. Right? Like grab like the collar of a cow that's really sick, put like in a good cow, put in my horse, who knows?
Yeah.
And create like a good story for that animal. The bolus actually is like it stays there. It's just like a surgical removal, or the animal just like dies with
I was going to ask, how do you actually get it into the cow?
it. You just like you give them like as a pill. They
Okay.
take it. And it records like pH. I think this is actually the I don't want to log in the system, but we'll give you like pH and temperature, and actually like it has like an accelerometer on it,
Oh, interesting.
so it can do like the activity of the animal and see like the animal's like moving around a lot or not. And then like they developed algorithms to look at heat, and I wanted to work a little bit more with them to develop algorithms for like rumination, because all the other like ear tags or collars, they do rumination. They have algorithms to detect like how long the animal spends just like chewing their cud. And the movement in the rumen is actually like a very repeatable pattern. It's always the same pattern. So it'd be very, very easy to get the data from the accelerometers and do an algorithm for that and create like a rumination model.
And I'm guessing it looks like on here, you can just monitor this from your cell phone.
Oh yeah, it's like 100% smart.
That's really cool.
When I had them like in my cows, I would just like check my phone, because then we'll give like, oh, the cow, like the temperature is too high, temperature is too low, things like that. And one thing that we can do, I don't know if we can see there. Yeah, we can try, and that's like has been like one of our biggest challenges, to try to calculate water intake, because like all those like big dips in temperature is actually when like the animal drinks water.
That makes sense.
But one thing that it's very hard to know, it's like the volume of their stomach.
Mhm.
So that's what like really messes us up in calculating, because even if we have the temperature of the water that the animals are drinking, we don't know the full volume of the rumens to actually like use like the thermodynamics laws to calculate how much you drink.
Interesting. No, that's really neat.
That's pretty much what we do, and that's why like I looked at the paper, I was like reading and discussing with my advisor instead of like working on it.
No, that's good. I mean, if it's even though it's the unintended benefit, I'm happy to hear that.
Let's go. I guess I'll see you next week.
Yep.
Might get like a email or two over the weekend if I have like any major problems, but I think this one should be fine.
Sounds good. You have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you too.